My name is Michael Owindo, Program Officer PANAF, and welcome to PANAF Summit 2025.
Excellency Ambassador, Embassy of Sweden in Tanzania, Charlotte Ozaki, Your Excellency Nicholas Moya, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Sport, Recreation, Art and Culture for Zimbabwe, distinguished guests, esteemed partner, artists, policymaker, and friends, welcome to the PANAF Summit 2025. My name is Teshoma Wandimu. I'm a founder and executive director of SELA. It's truly an honor to stand before you today as we gathering here in Zanzibar, celebrate, discuss, and strengthen artist freedom across Africa. The PANAF Summit is a critical milestone in our shared journey toward a more inclusive, fair, thriving cultural sector. Over the next 3 days, we will engage in essential conversation, share best practice and strategy on how further safeguard artist freedom across the continent. We will hear from policymakers, legal experts, and most importantly, artists whose voice must remain at the heart of this dialogue.
And as we gather here in Zanzibar, I think we're also reminded about the power of art, the Zabuzara, or the cultural heritage of this city, because it's not only a form of expression, but it is a force of change, a unifier of people, and a catalyst for justice. And we in Sweden, we have long been a steadfast advocate for freedom of expression, human rights, and democracy. And these values are not just policies we support, but they are also the foundation of our identity as a country. Artistic freedom is an expression of these principles, where when artists thrive, societies flourish. And yes, we can recognize that across the world, including here in Africa, artists face increasing barriers, censorship, lack of funding, and threats to their safety. And this must change.
PANAF was established in 2021 to provide a platform where artists, policymakers, civil society sector, and other stakeholders in the creative industry could meet, have a discussion, and talk about issues and challenges affecting the creative sector.
When I received an invitation to give this keynote address, my exact words to Sam and Michael were, "This is very flattering." So I'd like to title my keynote speech as "Artistic Freedom as a Critical Thinking Process." I don't think we quite realize it, but artistic freedom is about identity reclamation. It is about reimagining what it means to be free, artistic, and be an artist. And I think a recapitulation of whatever answers that we get out of that brings us to one pivot point. And I think the pivot point has to do with the relationship between citizens and the state. And I think within the context of artistic freedom, that speaks to three fundamentals for me, at least, and I hope I can convince you that is the case. So the first pillar has to do with what a state is doing. The second pillar has to do with what we permit the state to do as citizens. The third aspect has to do with the things that we hold the state to account on. Artistic freedom limitations are being justified as advancing the will of the people because it is public outcry and mass petitions that are pushing governments to act in the way that they do. And I think this is a call to government to say, the will of the people, be it of the majority or the minority, should not supersede the responsibilities that states have to protect and promote all human rights, including artistic freedom.
Day one, we had a very interesting day as it was the first day that the delegates were meeting, and we had a rich mix of delegates. We had people from government, civil society, artists, and private sector all showing up for the summit. And day one was basically about understanding the landscape. When we are talking about artistic freedom, what do we mean? What does the landscape look like? And this was very well canvassed with the two panel discussions that we had. One that talked about the role of artists in movement building.
The moment our artists went to the street, your celebrity was on the street, you had to go to the street because, as we know, not so many celebrities go to the street. But our celebrities made songs, made short videos, made whatever it is that they could do on their social platform to call out the government, and we did step out. So art is a powerful tool that works, and I can attest that I'm alive, I think, because art spoke against police brutality.
And the other panel that focused on artists at risk. What are the emergency support that are available to them?
Most of us, we are speaking about artist rights. Something to be a right must be delivered from a legal instrument that gives you a power to say, this is my right. You can't demand something as your right which is not provided in the law in any country.
Oh, freedom, because freedom that has a side that's part of this song.
What artistic freedom means for me is that all creatives of all genres and disciplines are able to express themselves in any forms and any ways that they feel about whatever happens around them, in them, and also things that for their communities that they feel should be spoken about without any form of censorship or reprieve from those in power or those that feel contrary to their situations at their time.
Personally, I have projects where I involve other artists. So we come together to form community or spaces, safe spaces to express ourselves. I also do different projects like events. I have Whispers of Power where I involve the community to engage in dialogues on, matters social justice. We try and reflect and question the government or question even ourselves. I have music because I write, I'm a musician, and I express myself through music. I talk about, social justice, mental health, culture. I talk about all these things as in that medium, as a way of expressing myself.
The call for action, as I mentioned before in the summit when I talked, we have to bring the spirit of Pan-Africanism back. And how we do this, I think the first or the easy way to do this is to create spaces for Africans so they can connect with each other, share their knowledge, share their stories, and try to shape better future for Africa.
So day two was about understanding the institutions that are there to support the creative sector and how their roles in supporting artists. The first panel, we canvassed the issue of digital technologies and how we can use the same to advance artistic freedom. And here we talked about the opportunities that are available for artists to use in the digital platforms, as well as the threats that accompany the use of digital media.
And this brings in the issues of digital democracy, because digital democracy demands that your expressions online are protected. You are given the same protection that you have as a matter of right under the freedom of expression. And I feel that it is at this point that all of us as players in the arts sector and in civil society should be very critical when we are reading this particular legislation, when we are doing any kind of amendments. And when we hear that people have been arrested for speaking somehow, or posting a cartoon that looks somehow, or doing a particular thing that has been regarded as an offense. And we need to put in mechanisms that allow us to begin to defend those who get injured by the other side of these particular laws. And that allows us to defend the digital space, but also to promote freedom of expression, which is the mother of artistic expression.
Digital space, yes, it's very impactful. Yes, it has its advantages, but it also has its own disadvantages. First of all, it connects you to a wider audience. Like when I'm in Kenya, I can definitely know about the Chimeza. We can talk more about it virtually. But there is the algorithms that are tampered with. So how accurate is it? Yeah.
The second panel talked about the role of government, a very key stakeholder in this issue of artistic freedom. And we had representation from different governments talking about what they see as the role of government in advancing artistic freedom. They also put up a case for why sometimes government acts the way it does, and the need for both stakeholders to come together to support artists in their work while also recognizing the importance of the laws of the land.
Let's stop being stakeholders in this thing and become stockholders. Let's become stockholders in this thing. That's what government wants. We have to change. We always see ourselves as stakeholders. We're at an arm's length. It is our thing. Let's leave a legacy for the future creators. And it means many of you here, young people, change the narrative. Don't allow those that are older than you who have not been doing things so right, and you continue again and fighting a war in a way where you're not leaving a correct legacy for the creatives that come after you.
I think lack of knowledge by government and government officials creates a feeling of insecurity when people speak out. I think politicians need to be educated on the power of art and what it can do to improve the livelihoods, to contribute to GDP. Because a lot of people, at least in my country, they do not know how powerful art is in terms of income, taxes, and all kinds of financial contributions to the growth of the country. So as long as you look at something as, the musicians, then you have lost the point. The education needs to be accelerated so that when the governments understand the usefulness of the arts, especially in providing employment for the youth who seem to be more artistic than any generation ever. I think when we get that in place, the understanding of the arts and the appreciation that the arts are here to inform society, to support society, to entertain and make people happy. When that is understood, I think the tensions will reduce.
So it's very, very important to have a conducive environment for artists, for human rights defenders, for people who are speaking truth to power, because it allows for an honest conversation, it allows for accountability, and it allows for different stakeholders to exercise and realize their freedom of expression. A conducive environment is key for any type of governance to flourish, or any type of good governance to flourish, because you would have objective checks and balances on government, and you would have honest complementarity and authentic engagement based on facts, based on what is truly transpiring on the ground. So that's very, very important, and it's important that CSOs are in that particular ecosystem, ensure that we are able to hold government to account in terms of policy reform that ensures that this environment is suitable for the different artists within the country.
Day 3 was about coming up with actionable activities that the different stakeholders can take individually or as a collective to advance the issue of artistic freedom. And to start us off, we had a very nice panel that canvassed the issues of strategies of funding artists. And we, in the panel, was discussed various methods and options available for artists, and also CSOs involved in advancing artistic freedom, where they can tap in to get funds to fund their activities, as well as opportunities that are available for them.
One of the gaps that I think we can say, honestly, is at least from an African perspective, is that there's limited public investment, and I think that's a big issue. I think we're talking in our group about public investment in theaters, in spaces for showing artists and artworks. And I find that one of the things that we've been trying to push, for example, from a UNESCO perspective, is how do you motivate government to support the sector in a robust way?
The wrong approach in our international partner is when they think of the exit, tick the box of sustainability is training the people at the end of the program during 1 week on fundraising. That's not what's going to solve the problem. It's our international partner, they don't have an ecosystem approach to this financial independency. So what I want from you, actually, and that's my message, when you design your program, is you have to think that help me getting rid of you. Because that's what should be our goal.
So Business Biz was written for this purpose. So in the space of also trying to be sustainable, I'm an artist on stage and off stage. What that means is I can perform, but I can also curate. But how many of us can do that? Those are the sustainable, conversations that we need to have. Can we train more artists to be curators? Can we train more artists to do policy work and not be spoken for but speak for themselves? Wanauza sukari kwa maa katelo, wanauza katen kwa duka patel, lakini si ten kwa black market ukiwa mjanja, just do it juu. Anachapa kawera na gate peda na kushuka wale to gate lay juu. Chips na kula na toothpick, baby kwa don't taku pick, tukienda picnic juu. Long live art for social change, long live. Viva comrades, viva!
The key thing as we think about what it is to kind of create and push for a world and a region that promotes artistic freedom and centers the rights of artists is the idea of an ecosystem, right? That so often artists don't necessarily think about what it is to promote a creative ecosystem that centers rights. And so when we have these structures of repression, the default then becomes, very understandably, these forms of self-preservation that then stifle art. And along with self-censorship, I think the other piece of that conversation that has to become so clear, it becomes parallel, is market censorship. And so often artists who then are expressing ideas, creating incredible work that challenge norms or push taboos, and that is so central to what an artist, a creative is, someone who creates new ideas. It's that then existing market economy structures don't feel comfortable promoting that work, giving that opportunities, because the job of most market structures is to do things that will be lucrative, mainstreamed, accessible, that might not create discomfort, taboos.
Thank you. I think it's important to have artists create in an environment where they're free to express themselves, because that's where the best quality work that they can make comes from. We have to remind ourselves always that artists are the ones who always hold the mirror to society. They're the ones who tell us how society is doing. They're in our societies, and we should always trust them as a voice that shows us where we are and where we need to go. So it's a very important part of our society, and we need to maintain their integrity, and we also need to maintain their rights to express themselves freely and also to move freely in their countries.
it has to do with the ultimate contribution that artists make to the GDP, that the more they create, the more they disseminate, the more they distribute, is the more money that government is able to make out of that. So I really don't think that a conversation about the creative economy should be done in isolation to a conversation about freedom of expression and the role that governments have to create an environment that is conducive for artists to thrive and create their artworks freely without being subjected to any form of censorship, and without them really feeling that once they create, there is something that's going to happen. Because where there is self-censorship, where there is active censorship, we will not be able to have an environment that thrives and contributes to a thriving creative economy.
The PANAF Summit 2025 will not have been possible if it were not for the generous support from the Swedish Embassy in Tanzania. And we want to thank Her Excellency so much for being part of the delegates of the summit together with her team.
Today I stand with you reaffirming Sweden's commitment to protecting and promoting artistic freedom. Through partnerships, policy dialogues and direct support to artists and creative organizations, we will continue to amplify voices that challenge, inspire, and also transform. And the theme of this summit this year, art, civic engagement, and movement building, couldn't be more timely, I believe. Because we have seen artists here in Africa in the forefront of social movements, using film, music, performances to advocate for justice, gender equality, and climate action. So what is artistic freedom then? Well, it's about building something greater, adding beauty to our lives, but it's also about creating societies where diverse voices are not only heard but celebrated, where art is not just tolerated but nurtured. So let us work together to create a future where artists are free, creativity is limitless, and expression knows no borders. Thank you, Asante Misana.
We also want to extend our gratitude to the Swedish Institute and the Swedish Arts Council, as well as Artists at Risk Connection, who together with Selam were able to put this summit together.